What's up guys, it's Punchy, and today I've finally done it. I haven't really focused specifically on monster hunting builds in the past, but this time I buckled down and made something very fun. With unrivaled damage and untouchable healing, this build is unstoppable for basically every single PVE Deepwoken encounter. Trust me, if you know what you're doing, you can essentially one-shot anything. We'll begin with offense, everything about dealing damage and how to maximize your one-shot potential. The primary focus of this build is all about mantra pen, and as we know, a good mage build significantly overpowers anything that you can do with a weapon, so we'll spec most of our points into spell power. I've talked about this in great detail earlier last week, but Arc Beam has something weird going on, and I think it's the hardest hitting mantra in all of Deepwoken monster hunting. With the ability to beam targets at close range, we're shredding through any boss or monster with ease. It's almost funny. Whenever possible, you must be using Arc Beam, preferably at close range, and with a blessed gem. The damage is outstanding, and the cooldown shouldn't really be any problem. The other mantras I use have much of the same purpose, dealing good damage with having decent range, that's always good. Even without Arc Beam, we should be able to kill monsters very fast, so yeah, pick up whatever you want. Arc Warder's Arc Wave is good for applying status and hitting anything within a wide radius, and it's pretty solid for setting up other attacks. Fire Palm and Fire Forge are both ranged options that I really use to grab enemy aggro, but I try to stay as close as possible to my target in order to maximize the damage with these ranged mantras. Every other offensive mantra is really up to you, but your main focus should be on Arc Beam, the entire purpose of picking Arc Warder. That ability is unrivaled, and I love one-tapping anything I look at, so I chose to put Insignia and Blessed Gems on my mantras because we need our moves to come out fast. Don't worry about Bloodless Healing, we already have that covered in the defense segment of this build. Another essential talent for this build that's insane for DPS and overall damage output is going to be Hungry Flames. At the cost of both our thirst and hunger, we're able to freely cast Flame Charm mantras without even having ether, and this is absolutely game changing. By throwing out extra moves, we can deal insane damage at extremely low cost. But that's our base mode, so let's spice up this build with some damage modifiers. Arc Warder mantras have a special property which allows the user to deal extra damage to monsters almost exponentially, and we want to take advantage of this. Using a myriad of damage multipliers and mantra pen modifiers, we ascend past Arc Beam's limits and create a truly devastating weapon that, wipes out everything in Deepwoken. First things first, we can't forget to invest all our attribute points into Song Chant. With a maxed out Song Chant, we'll have an extra 30% mantra scaling alongside 30% extra mantra pen. That's good, but we have to break the cap. After picking up Ether Overdrive, the 30% mantra pen cap is broken, also granting us 5% mantra pen at the same time. Don't forget, pick this up before you Shrine of Order because it's essential to maximize our damage. Another bonus pen talent that's pretty decent on this build is Approaching Singularity. This talent grants bonus mantra pen for every 10 stat points we have in intelligence, which is okay, but we will lose some after distributing our stats, so it's only decent. To finalize our mantra pen, we'll put on the Prophet's Cloak for a bonus 25% mantra pen on all of our moves, and that's about it. On to the damage multipliers. So last time I introduced the Arc Beam build, I forgot to mention a very important talent that honestly was doing a lot for me. Perfect Flash allows the user to deal 1.25 times damage with mantras if we're fully healed, and usually this is ineffective during combat interactions, but remember, we one-shot monsters all the time and heal to full every time we do this. So yes, seriously do not forget this. If you're feeling risky, Ishin's Ring can be beneficial to multiply your damage by 20%, but don't be overconfident because you will take 25% more. This build has a lot of healing, but we can't really tank everything, so keep that in mind. Ishin's isn't really my favorite for monster hunting, but the Ring of Casters is a must-pick ring that you need for this build, so by sacrificing 10% of our weapon's damage, every mantra, including Arc Beam, gets multiplied by 10%. It's definitely worth the trade-off, I won't lie. Flame Within also grants the user 20% extra damage to both our mantras and weapon, and we do have the healing to regenerate. I'd say if you want to maximize your damage output, you can try this, but it might reset Chain of Perfection stacks. You probably noticed earlier that I had the Grim enchant. Well, that's to increase our damage. Things like Seer or the Metal enchant are decent, but Grim forces enemies to take more damage. It doesn't really lower their defense, and this is what we want. You don't really need to count when this procs, but whenever it does happen, we have a sizable increase to our DPS. To further increase our damage, every single mantra that we have applies the Flame status and Tough Love's Charm effect. The extra push from Charm lets us deal 10% more damage to charmed enemies, and that status is easily stripped by our weapon, causing us to deal 10% more damage after its removal, and this is very good with Nullifying Clarity. This is very good good for stationary targets like Chaser or Ethron because we can light them on fire and, you know, remove that status for 10% bonus. That's about everything for the Arc Warder build's offense, but yeah, it's the most amount of damage I've done with a single combo. Now let's talk about staying alive. At a basic level, having Flame Charm's Flame Wisp allows us to passively heal while playing through content, and we don't really have to waste our stat points on Flame Charm, it's just a little bit of a bonus. Other tools like Reinforce give us small heals in combat, but let's move on to our hard-hitting regen tools. Again, I talked about this earlier this week, but the Delayed Corrupted Payback is just so good and honestly the best spell for all of PvE. With this spell, we negate all incoming damage and multiply it further to regenerate while dealing insane damage, so if you're smart and play well with this resonance, I don't think you can actually die. The final talents that make a huge difference in gameplay are Replenishing Knockout and Carnivore's Grand Feast. Replenishing Knockout, the first talent, grants bonus healing on monster kills, which we absolutely need, and Grand Feast, which also does this, got some sort of shadow buff, making it one of the best talents in all of PvE. On kill, we regenerate ether, tempo, blood, health, hunger, and thirst. It's basically a full heal to every single resource. With all that being said, I've done a lot to min-max this build, and my stats reflect this. Remember, you can modify this build however you like, but here's the full talent list as well if you want to see what I personally did. Anyway, that was my take on the best possible PvE build using Arc Warder, since, you know, some of you guys are PvE players, and I'm surprised it worked as well as it did. That being said, I'm editing this video before the update, and I'm not sure if any of these things are outdated or nerfed, but here it is anyway. If you enjoyed, make sure to like and subscribe for even more builds, because trust me, I have so many planned. We're almost at 65,000 subs, which is crazy, so please help me out. Thanks again, it's punchin' time.